Welcome to the first session of Life on Purpose. You are in for the ride of your life. So buckle up. I hope that you're expectant, but if you aren't yet, well, let's all just hold our hands open. Take a deep breath together. And ask the Lord, what do you have for me today? Because I think he's got something that might just change everything about how you love God and how you love others. Just hold on, because it's about to be crazy. And don't worry, we gave you these handy-dandy little notebooks for you to take all these things down and reference back years to come so you remember what God did this weekend at this conference. So, my name is Olivia Humphrey, and if we haven't met yet, I would love to be your friend. Because it makes me sad just looking at strangers. Let's be family. If you know Jesus and I know Jesus, we're going to be together forever. So, let's get it started. You know what I mean? I'm 22 years old. I just finished college. So that means I'm a part of Gen Z. Now, many people can say many things about my generation, but the one thing that we're known for is our passion. There's a statistic recently, I was looking through this website, the American Student Association actually, says 9 out of 10 Gen Z respondents reported being passionate about a certain social cause. That's what we're all about, right? This zeal, this passion to do something, to see change, to make it happen, right? But I'm not convinced it's just my generation. I think the older are very passionate about making their legacy count. What are they going to leave here on this earth? Because they start thinking, what's after me? What is this generation going to do when I'm in the nursing home, right? I'm sure older people are thinking that too. And the younger kids, they're looking up at the heroes they're seeing around them. Who am I going to be? What am I going to do when I'm older? We're all longing for some sort of impact, right? We care. And specifically Gen Z, we're known for that. And what if we aimed all of that at what Jesus was passionate about? What if that passion could be placed somewhere that makes it last longer than you could live? I don't know. It says right here in the book, your life legacy is meant for high and lasting impact. The word is impact. But only Jesus can show you how to strategically aim at what will really matter most. Because you can strategically aim at what you care about in your kingdom, but it just won't last. But what if you aimed at what he says is most important, what he says is long-lasting? I think you'll find so much more fulfillment. That's what we're all looking for. So what is Jesus' mission? I'm very glad you asked, because that's what's next. Jesus stated his ultimate aim, what he was most passionate about. Have you ever seen Passion of the Christ? It led him to the passion of giving up his life for us. His mission was to seek and save lost people. That was you and I. I was once lost, and now I've been found, and I can't help but tell you about it. Right? Is your passion aimed at his mission? Because if it isn't, it's your mission, and it'll end with you. Look, Matthew 9:36 says this. When Jesus looked out over the crowds, his heart broke. He was so confused and aimless. They were so confused and aimless, like sheep with no shepherd. Every college student, because I just got done graduating from college, and I hung out with a lot of people that age, every college student I talk to that doesn't know Jesus says, I just don't really know what the point of me being here is. They're just confused and aimless, doesn't know what to do with their life. That's what Jesus is looking out on, confused and aimless. Why am I here? What's the point of all of this? That leads you in this spiral of anxiety or depression or anger or whatever it is, idolatry, all these things. And Jesus is the shepherd that they're looking for. So he came to save them. He came to do something about it. So he reveals the world's greatest need in this verse. But he tells us there's a missing ingredient here. Now, every Sunday, I make pancakes in my apartment because, hallelujah, it's Sunday morning, we're going to church, we're going to make some pancakes. And the other day, I was baking, and everything looked right. I'm pretty sure I could have, sworn that I did everything right in the recipe. And I'm stirring it up, and I start pouring it into the stove top. And it looks super liquidy, and it's just a really oily pancake. And I'm like, I do this every Sunday. What is going on? So it's pretty early in the morning too, so I'm probably just really tired. I go triple check, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I forgot baking powder. And it seems so simple. It's is it really gonna affect it that much? And you can't even tell that it's not there because you literally put a teaspoon of it in there. It's so small. But it impacts the whole recipe. It wouldn't get fluffy and light, and it wouldn't form together the way it's supposed to without that ingredient. And Jesus tells us what the missing ingredient is, and the people who are lost with sheep with no shepherd. He says it's laborers. Look, fill it in. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. We're just an ingredient in his recipe. right? He's the one forming and doing all of this, but he wants to use us as an ingredient to form this amazing redemption plan. There's great needs everywhere, but he identifies the one thing that's missing. More kingdom laborers. Now, why that word? Good question as well. You guys have great questions. Jesus didn't say there's too few eloquent speakers, gifted musicians, or upfront leaders. He says there's too few laborers. Now, I'm up here, I'm on stage, I'm speaking, I'm up front. That's not a bad thing, right? Like, if I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't really be being myself, if I'm honest with you. I think God made me this way. And if he made you that way, let's go, that's awesome. But not everyone is made that way. And there's only a few percentage of people who are going to be wired with that. I need you to live into your gifting, your ordinary whatever it is. If you've got humor, use it. If you're amazing at chess and you want to play chess with some people and that to be the way you lead people to Jesus, use it. Laborer is an ordinary word. Think about it. Like, who's the people that got you here today? I don't just mean at this Life on Purpose conference. I mean like in your life. Was it your pastor? Maybe. That's awesome. Maybe it was a speaker that you heard. Awesome. But maybe it was like, for me, a volleyball coach. Or maybe it's a friend at school that you met. Or your mom and dad or your grandparent who took you in. Maybe it was someone in your neighborhood that you played basketball with every week. I don't know. For my dad, it was a bus driver. My dad was the first generation believer. No one in his family knew Jesus. But one Sunday morning, he heard a knock on the door and he went and answered. And it's this guy named Roger. And Roger owned a bus, and he drove the bus all around my dad's neighborhood and would knock on people's doors on Sunday and say, "You want to come to church with me?" Now, today, someone knocked on my door with a bus and said, "Do you want to come to church with me?" And it's a grown man named Roger. I'm running. I'm just gonna shut the door and say, "Please don't ever come here again. That's so scary." But my dad is like, "Sure." And this bus driver named Roger leads my dad to Christ, and it changed my eternity. If that ordinary guy didn't do that, I guarantee I wouldn't be here. And he was just no one would have looked at Roger and said, "You're doing the ministry." I hope people would have, but I don't think people would notice it that way. Jesus would. And Jesus did, because I'm still living in it today. So thanks, Roger, for your obedience. Laborer is an every people word. Jesus, our model to follow, right? He did this himself. He chose ordinary people. He chose a doctor, a tax collector, fisherman. He hung out with women in societies that wouldn't have called women into his group necessarily. And this message is communicated all throughout the Bible. God does extraordinary things through, write it down, ordinary people. Laborers aren't seeking microphones or spotlights. If you're given a microphone or a spotlight, did you seek it? Are you going out of your way to get up front? That's not the way of Jesus. But they roll up their sleeves and they get things done, engaging in the mud puddles of human need. Every day I drive home from work because I'm a barista, and I drive through downtown Columbia. And Columbia is just an interesting place. It's filled with people from all over the world, and then there's a lot of homeless people, but then there's a lot of nice areas, and it's just like, you could be in a really nice area and go across the street and it'd be really run down. And so I see all sorts of things coming home. And one day, I won't share the name, I'll just make up a name. I passed this like food pantry type thing. We'll call it the food pantry. And they do very good work around the area downtown, and they give food to the homeless and shelter for them as well. Awesome, right? And as I'm passing, I saw so briefly, because I wasn't even at a stop sign, I just looked. And I feel like God was really showing me something through those few seconds. On the entryway to the food pantry is this man in a really nice suit. And there's like a fake red carpet put out in front of him, and there's a camera guy taking pictures, and there's balloons that says congratulations, and he's standing there, and I have no idea what he was holding, truly. I think God just took over my imagination at this point. But what if he was holding a book that said How to Love Your Neighbor? And all these people are taking pictures with him, and it's like this guy's just gonna get a lot of money for this. They want people to sign that book, and it's like a big deal, right? But right around the corner from the food pantry, there's a homeless guy sitting right there, who hasn't been given food, who hasn't been invited in. He's his neighbor. And this guy wasn't willing to go across the corner to get out of his Christian book and love his neighbor. Now, Christian books aren't bad. God can use them for sure. But I'm afraid we've become spiritually bulimic. We just eat all of this great Christian info, and we read all the great Christian books, and we listen to all the great Christian podcasts, and then we just throw it up at our next little small group that we do. And it's not like getting into our bones and giving us nutrients to actually move into action and love your neighbor who's just around the corner if you just go look and get your face out of that Christian book. Read them, sure, but let them seep in, but also read the Word of God like it matters. Sometimes I think we've replaced the Word of God for the new Christian book, and I'm worried about that too. Laborers get stuff done, and Jesus came here on a mission to do something about the need he saw, not just for us to read something about all the needs we see. We must be people who get things done. So if you want in on that, if you want to actually get into action and stop being so, I feel like we're spiritually obese. Paul says this all the time, we're the most poured in, the least poured out. Like if you're like, yeah, I want to get to work. Well, this is how you do it. You love God with all of your heart. That's what it says right there. Fill that in. Love God with all your heart. Because the greatest gift you'll ever give someone is your intimacy with God. I'm also a procrastinator, okay? I'll just be honest. And I will literally, it plays itself in every area of my life, including me getting gas. And I literally think, I can go all the way. I got plenty of time. It says I got 60 miles till empty, so I'm going to ride to work today. Next thing you know, I'm running errands around the city. I've completely forgot. I'm running low on gas. And now I'm stressed, but I'm also thinking, I still have a little bit left for today. I can get myself home. So I'm still thinking, I'll just get myself home. Well, the next thing you know, it's 5:30 a.m. and I'm going to work at the coffee shop. And I'm already running late because I just run late pretty much everywhere. And I hop in my car and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I have 0 miles to empty. Now I don't know if I'm gonna get to the gas station. Either way, I'm gonna be very late to work. So I put all of this anxiety and stress in this moment. And I think that's what we're doing with God is we wait and wait and wait till it's the very last second, till we're so anxious, till we're so stressed, and I'm desperate to run to God. When I could have just been on top of filling it up every day, being fueled up by Him daily, not having to wait till this breakthrough moment of, oh my gosh, I need you, Lord. We need Him desperately every day. Your car can't run without gas. It's also like if we tried to plug an extension cord into itself, there's literally no power there. If you're just trying to love people and fill the need in the world and all this stuff without being connected to the source itself, it's like plugging an extension cord into itself. There's no power there, but if it's plugged into something bigger than itself, then so many people can get connected to the source through that. The greatest gift you'll ever give this world is your intimacy with God. Now, the next one. Love your neighbor. Simple, right? You remember reading about this or learning this in Sunday school? Who is your neighbor? It's the person nearest to you. Write that down. Nearest to you in any given moment as you move about every day, everywhere. Now, I'm going to tell you a story of an actual neighbor that God used to bring someone to Christ. So, I met a man named Ahmad, and he grew up in Saudi Arabia, a place where there's little to no Christians, and if you go there and you're asking where your local church is, they're going to question you a lot, okay? That's not going to be a common question you're going to ask there. So this guy grows up in this Muslim household in the neighborhood, and this new couple moves in to their neighborhood. And they move in from Lebanon. And the assumption would be that they're also Muslim, right? Well, his parents, over the next few weeks, as these neighbors are there, start to notice there's some different things about the neighbor. They're not going to the mosque like everyone else in the neighborhood does. They're not participating in Eid, which is one of the festivals they do. They don't see them doing their prayers or hear any call to prayer going on in their home. And they just start to question, are these people even Muslim? So it raises some red flags for the parents. I don't think they just went and boldly assumed they're Christians, but they definitely are thinking there's something off with them, right? So his parents sat him down and said, Ahmad, don't you dare go over there. Those people are infidels. They're dirty. They will make you dirty. They're unclean. They'll make you unclean. Don't go over there. Now, Ahmad, being about 12 or 13 years old, hearing his parents tell him, don't do that, made him want to go, I'm going to do that. So he grows in curiosity. What is so bad about these people? They tell me, hey, every time I come home from school and their sons are my age, they're super nice to me. I kind of wanted to play with them. I don't know why my parents are being weird about this. So this curiosity grew more and more. And these people only got kinder and kinder, getting to know his name and inviting him over to their house and stuff like that. So one day, Ahmad took him up on it. He went inside their house, which is a big deal. And he sits with them, and the parents are getting to know his name and his story, and somehow it comes up, Ahmad tells him, my birthday's coming up soon. He doesn't think anything of it. He moves on and goes, a couple weeks later, it's his birthday. And he's not doing anything special. They didn't celebrate birthdays in his household, so he walks into their house like every other ordinary day. and there's balloons in the kitchen. And there's a birthday cake with his name on it. It says Ahmad. And the family gathered around and sang him happy birthday and celebrated him. And Ahmad was like, I've never had a birthday party before. No one's ever sang me happy birthday. I've never had a cake just for me. Are you kidding me? And that's his actual neighbor. Unfortunately, this couple ends up having to move. Ahmad still to this day doesn't know where they went or why they had to move so quickly. My hunch is they probably got found out that they're Christians and they had to flee. But 17 years later, Ahmad gave his life to Christ. He got so curious. Why do these people love him? They mentioned Jesus. They mentioned that Jesus loves him. And he was like, what does that even mean? And that's all he knew from this couple. And 17 years later, God used that ordinary moment as an ordinary neighbor to change his eternity. And now Ahmad's in Egypt connecting all of these Middle Eastern believers into communities where they can connect and engage with God in a way that's safe. He's a hero in the faith to me. And he was just an ordinary guy in a neighborhood loved by some people from Lebanon. That's actual neighborhood, but we actually find new neighbors every day. My neighbors often look like the customer in front of me that I'm serving coffee. I can't tell you how many deep conversations I've had with someone's life by me just going like, hey, what's your plan for the weekend? And it opens up this whole conversation as I'm making their coffee of what they're going to do for the weekend. Oh my gosh, I'm getting married, or we're expecting a baby. They tell me all of these exciting life stories as a barista. It's really, really fun. My neighbor also looks like a volleyball player because I get to be on a coaching staff at a school. I see athletes all the time and get to be around them. So it's constantly changing. Loving someone also isn't just what you say to them. Most of the time, it's what you do to them. Because if I tell you one thing all day long, but my actions don't show it, it means nothing. My boss at work, he does a really good job at this. His name's Jacob. He's the owner of the coffee shop I work at and another coffee shop downtown. So he's managing both, and he's always answering emails. He's got 1 million people trying to pry for Jacob and his attention and his answers. And when I'm in a busy shift and I'm working and I'm the shift lead and I got to make sure everything's going on, sometimes I look up and Jacob's in the back washing our dishes. He stepped away from his laptop, from his Zoom meeting, his emails and all that just to wash the barista's dishes. Who's getting paid, I'm getting paid literally nothing. This guy owns our paychecks and he's washing my dishes. That's love. He didn't have to say anything about that. He's a laborer. The byproduct of this, it's like a math equation. If you're loving God and if you're loving your neighbor, the result of that equals advancing God's kingdom. It's not like these are separate things. It's not like, okay, love God over here and then love your neighbor over here and then advance it over here. They all come together. When these two things are going on, the product that comes out of your life is God's kingdom's going everywhere. Now it's going to the coffee shop. Now it's going to the public bathroom if you might run into someone. Now it's going back to your apartment where your roommate might be hurting. Wherever it is, God's kingdom's going with you. Look in Luke 10. It's another example of the harvest is plentiful thing. Read it with me. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers. That's that word send out is like a jolt, like a thrusting out of workers into his harvest field. Go. I'm sending you out. Look at your feet. Where your feet go is where he goes with you. Jesus' plan is a mobile ministry plan. Write down mobile. Aren't you glad we don't have landline telephones anymore? Where you have to go and I don't know, my parents had a really old one. I never had to actually use it, but you had to do the little number thing. You know what I'm doing. I don't even know what it's called, but and it takes forever just to make a phone call. Yeah. And you can walk around the house a little bit. You just can't walk super far because it's connected to this thing, right? When we got mobile phones, it changes everything, right? I can take my phone anywhere I want. If you need me, you can call me at any point. You don't have to page me anymore. I guess that was a thing too. I don't know. I was just born. I was kidding. But it's a mobile plan. You can take it with you everywhere. We're not just, I think we're acting as Christians nowadays that we can only meet with God in a building. We can only meet with him at the revival that you go to at your church conference. And yeah, I think he's going to show up there. But what if he does show up on the street on your walk in the neighborhood when you're walking your dog and you see someone else? Because he's everywhere with you. Why are we acting like it's Old Testament days, just going into a building expecting to meet God and then leaving him there? He's with you now. Does our life look like that? It's a mobile ministry plan. Jesus looked toward to the day when his body, us, his people, would be positioned to advance his kingdom. Jesus literally said, it's going to be better for me to go so that I can give you the helper. It's actually to your advance, to help you out for me to leave, which in my mind is crazy. I want Jesus here with me. I want Jesus sitting right there on that couch. And I want to be able to look him in the eye. That would be crazy. But instead he says, no. It's better for me to go because I have a better gift for you so that I can go with you anywhere. And he says, behold, I'll be with you always to the ends of the earth. And he keeps his promise. I'm telling you, he's never failed, right? And what if you, today, you ordinary person who somehow ended up at this Life on Purpose conference because some ordinary person told you about it, what if you were able to be the answer to Jesus' prayer request, to the world's greatest need for more kingdom laborers? So read with me at the bottom. We have to remember this because we're forgetful people, okay? So let's repeat. Say it with me. Jesus declared kingdom laborers are the missing ingredients in the world's greatest need. Kingdom laborers are ordinary people. Say it again, ordinary people who love God and love their neighbors and advance God's kingdom every day, everywhere. Let's reflect and respond.